the going back to citizenship a little bit, that there are new landing place so
Sincere apologies for the late start. Welcome to day 4 of the week-long Open Minds Alliance Mental Health Week event. I'm here with my colleague, Oladapo.
Yes, my name is Oladapo Awushokore. I'm the vice chair of OMA. OMA means Open Minds Alliance, and we do apologize for starting late today. And we're now kicking off the program, and we have a packed program today.
Okay. All right, so representing Hackney in terms of this week-long event, it's been a journey, and all of us have been on a journey for the past year or so with COVID, with Black Lives Matters, and just the whole delving into the issue of mental health. Oladapo and myself are part of an organization called Open Minds Alliance, and we're very much about working with organizations, working with agencies, working with individuals that want to create change with regards to mental health and the African and Caribbean community. Today, we've got a program, quite an eclectic program, from interviews about mental health journey to videos about what young people are doing in tackling mental health issues in the borough of Hackney. We've got spoken word artists. We've got an innovator who's produced an app for parents. We've got a whole range of activities and events. And we've also got live African drumming to bring some beat and rhythm to the day it's the evening that we're delivering right now. The other thing I'd like to say, and I'm just looking at my notes, is we're very much a part of sharing ideas, having an exchange in terms of community insights, and also reporting on solutions that local grassroots organizations in Hackney have come up with. We want to spotlight Ire Mind, Swim Enterprise, Finding a Balance, Claudia Jones, Father to Father, African Community School, Creative Lifestyle, Holistic Support, Community Africa Network, Beersheba, Living Well, and I could go on and on and on, but I won't. I'll stop right now. So we're going to start with a video from the Cool Down Cafe, which is based at Hackney CVS.
Yeah.
Cool Down Cafe is great because there's not many places like it. It's a space where young people can come and talk about their mental health, a subject which they might find very sensitive and a weakness, but can actually use that to their strength. It's part of life.
Something that I actually hold very close to myself, going through my own personal battles with mental health. I think it's very key to know that, especially at a young age, you're not alone facing these battles. You have other people there to support you. You have people that are not far off your age but slightly older to give you the guidance, the love and the support that you genuinely need.
The space is governed by 2 to 3 trained qualified psychologists and 5 to 6 young youth leaders. We come together and we share a space with young people to allow them to feel that they can they can break down and digest things that they might not feel comfortable speaking about to their friends, to their family, or to anyone else.
It is a youth-led initiative and it has a main focus around mental health support. We also work alongside clinical psychologists. We aim to give the young people we work with the opportunity to express themselves in ways that they usually won't be able to in places like schools or at home. We also run a youth hub in Pembury Community Centre after school hours for them to unwind, have fun and participate in activities.
A safe space that the youth can come if they want advice, if they need mentorship. It is a youth-led initiative run along clinical psychologists, mentors for young people. And I'm also a multi-faced individual with a number of different business ventures, and that includes influencing, rapping, I do athletics, I like to advise. I do a range of different things that include poetry, dance sessions. I'm a creative as a whole, and anything to help the youth, I'm down for.
We have weekly sessions where young people take part in the sessions while expressing our stories and while making the younger people feel like they have someone they can talk to about how they're feeling or what they have gone through mentally.
To maintain a stigma-free environment that allows young people to have honest and open conversations. As mental health is a topic that may not be able to be discussed in said young person's school life, personal life, or family life, the Cool Down Cafe and my role within it is one that aims to eliminate that problem every Thursday.
It is an online platform as well as an open space for young people to attend and offload. It is a youth-led program co-hosted with clinical psychologists who work alongside the youth leaders to help them feel comfortable in talking about their mental health and the things that affect them, their families, and their community.
Okay, so as we can see here, that was a very perfect example of what I'm talking about with regards to young people coming up with a solution in collaboration with others to take care of their mental health. And throughout the program this evening, we're going to see lots of different examples. I'd like to introduce Sonia. And she's a member of the Melanin Rich Women's Group, which is part of Ire Mind, one of the local grassroots organizations that's providing support services for African and Caribbean people who are living with or affected by mental health issues. And I'm just going to give her the floor.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Good evening, rather. Good evening, everyone. As you heard, I'm from the Melanin Rich Group of Mind at Hackney, and I'm here to read a poem that I write about bringing back trust, because that's the theme for this mental health week that we are doing. I hope you lot enjoy listening to it as I have enjoyed writing it, and I hope you lot take it for what it is and as it said. Thank you. Trust you. I love, love, love with my eyes closed. I lost big time. I did not see when to shut the door. I paid the price with pain. I paid the price by being insane. I paid the price by being afraid of my home. Trust you? Fear of my phone. Fear of being alone. Not knowing who is who. Fear of everything that was once me. Total loss of my identity. Building back trust, I have begun. My eyes wide open, my boundary are set, my armor in place. Trust you? Trust me. The future is in my hand. I alone command this land. Building trust is part of my plan. With me, my number one fan. Thank you.
Thank you, Sonia. And that's the theme, trust. That's the thing we're going to be running through the program this evening. Okay, so coming up should be we have an interview with Yolanda Lear, author of The Journey to the Undefeated Mind. Okay. Oh, hello.
How are you?
All right. Okay. So, okay. Right. I'm just trying to get my head around this technology. I've got my book, and I want everyone else who's watching this program to go get the book. The Journey to an Undefeated Mind. Can I ask you a question? I'll ask a series of questions. But the first question I'd like to ask is, why did you choose that title? How did that title come about, if you don't mind?
I knew that question was coming. You know what? I didn't have much thought into the title. Like, when I speak about the book, and we'll probably get into it a lot more later, but everything just happened. I call it divine intervention or divine calling. It just happened naturally. So I woke up one day and I had the title in my head, literally just like that.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's not of me. I would have to say that was of God, because it came naturally.
Okay. And you started writing this book when you were 25.
That's correct.
And you're quite young. Given that you were chronicling your mental health journey, how did you come to that? How did you come to that decision to do that?
So again, everything kind of just happened naturally. So I was going through my own battle. I would say it got really bad towards 2016, 17, 18 period. But 2019, that's when I really went on my own journey, trying to find healing. And that journey just looked completely ugly. When I say that, I mean tears like you're a baby, that kind of crying. It was just painful. That period there was just painful. And I went on that journey, and then last year, 2020, again, everything just happened naturally in my sleep. A few lines from the intro of the book came to my head while I was sleeping, as I said. And I do poetry and spoken word as well. So my instant thought was, could this be poetry? Could I turn it into spoken word? And then I thought, it's a bit too deep and structured perfectly. I don't want to disturb it how it is. It came to my head that way for a reason, basically. So I wrote it out. Before I knew it, I'd written like a whole chapter. I'd sent it to one of my work colleagues, saying, I'm thinking of writing a book, like, tell me what you think. By the time he had finished reading that chapter, I was on like chapter 3, starting chapter 4.
Wow.
So it was something that was just meant to happen. Yeah.
So you obviously, there was a momentum that was driving you forward in terms of writing this book. And I think what's extraordinary about this book you've written is it's not just about yourself. Each chapter, there is a blueprint that someone can pick up who's suffering in terms of their mental health issues and draw some lessons to apply to their own situation. I think it's interesting how you talk about lessons and blessings. Could you explain that for the audience? I like that.
Thank you. So going through my own journey, that was like the key kind of phrase. So I realize a lot of what we go through, a lot of so-called mistakes aren't actually mistakes, they're lessons. A lot of the pain that we're feeling, a lot of the trauma, once we overcome that, we can actually see the lesson in it. And then once we're able to see the lesson, we're able to receive the blessing. So it was just about getting other people to understand that even though you're going through such hard moments at that moment or that moment of time, there is something positive to come from it. There is lessons that you will learn that you'll be able to incorporate into your life later on, but there are also blessings that you will receive, and also blessings that were staring you right in front of your face before, but because you're so caught up in your pain and your grief and everything that you're facing, you're unable to really see those blessings. So when you go through that journey, it makes it a lot more clearer for you to be able to see those blessings. So I just wanted to let other people reading that know that basically, yeah.
So let me just step back a bit, because you talk about the lessons and after you overcome the trauma, there are lessons that you draw, and then you then begin to see the blessings. But can I just step back? In terms of the trauma overcome, what, in terms of support, was there support there for you to enable that overcoming of trauma to happen, or to be facilitated in any kind of way?
There was odd people around me that I can draw on, but there wasn't like a substantial figure that I can say that is the person I would definitely go to for advice, for anything. But there were definitely people around me that if I needed advice, they could give me. If I needed support in other ways, they could give me. But a lot of the journey, a lot of that process of healing, it was just self-healing. It was just me going through and just being tired of feeling the pain, tired of crying myself to sleep, all things like that. I just got frustrated at how I was. So I basically forced myself to say, okay, if I can spend this much time feeling like this, then I can spend this much time feeling so much better. So I just decided to put that work in myself. And also, even though I don't really go to church as much now, I grew up in the church household, families, church, Christians, stronghold. I always like to call on God, use me as you will. And I noticed, going through that journey, I realized you got to be careful what you ask for, because in me asking God to use me, I had to really be prepared for what was to come. And that's why I was kind of forced to go on that journey. If I really want to walk in my purpose, I've got a hill was holding me back. So it was all myself to a degree, but again, there's that connection to a higher purpose, a higher divine purpose. Yeah.
And so you mentioned purpose, and again, I like the way you talk about purpose and passion. Could you unpack that for me, so the other people that might not have read your book and gone and ordered and bought it now? Get up.
If you haven't, go buy it. Yeah. When you start to really just walk in your own, before you even get a chance to really walk in your purpose, you start finding what your passion is. And for me, my passion was writing. I wanted to be a rapper. I still do a little bit, but I realized I didn't feel like I can fully be myself in that field. But I continued to write. At the back of the book, it says there's a message there, keep your head up, which is from my cousin, my late cousin, Milton Jr. And he always told me, no matter what you do, keep on writing, because your writing will get you somewhere. So I kept that passion for writing and continued to write. So whether that was just writing down how I felt, writing down what I did during the day, writing down lyrics, just continuing to write. In writing, that brought me closer to my purpose. And also, I'm a youth leader, so My
Okay.
passion is to help young people
Mm.
and just helping people in general. But I feel like with young people, if you can get to them while they're young, you can help guide them for their future and give them a better future. So that was my strong passion, like to be a youth worker. So
Okay.
I followed that passion, and in doing that, it's forced me to find my purpose and walk in my purpose. So that's what I mean about passion and purpose. When you really find what you're passionate about and what you love to do,
Yeah.
you tend to subconsciously fall into your purpose. So yeah, that's what that was.
Well, clearly, in terms of what you've said so far, you clearly had a very strong trust in terms of God, or in terms of whatever your faith is. And because the theme of this whole week-long event is all about building trust. And part of that conversation we're trying to have is building trust in each other, building trust in ourselves, building trust within our families, building trust within the community, building trust with the state. And obviously, a lot of the work that Omar has been doing over the past year has been around looking at what the relationship of public services and mainstream services are with regards to mental health services and the African and Caribbean community, and what can we do to bridge the gap, because there is a gap and the needs that we have are not being adequately met. And clearly, when I started reading, and when I read this, I read the whole book, and I'm thinking, my goodness, are you telling me that a 25-year-old young woman, young leader, inspirational leader in a Hackney can come up with some solutions, and here's a blueprint, yes, of, I thought, wow, Yolanda needs to be workshopping this. If you're talking about well-being, if you're talking about prevention, and on Monday, Councillor Bramble spoke about, she says, yes, I'm listening and I'm hearing about mental health issues with regards to the African and Caribbean community, but we need to start to get into prevention. We need to start talking about and moving on the well-being agenda. And I thought, here's a perfect, the blueprint is here. Yeah, the rocket science has been investigated, explored, documented, and evidence. Yes. So one of the things at the back of the book you said you wanted to do, this book is used, it is a book used to help inspire others to take the journey to overcome mental health. So I want to just take that sentence and see how you can, how does it relate to young people in particular? Young people in particular.
I think, especially with young people, they suffer from mental health a lot. And one thing I noticed from my own personal experiences and from just seeing young people, that when they do try and speak, they often get shut down. So even from a young, like a really, really young age, toddler I'm talking, when a toddler is asking you the question, why? We tell them, we stop asking me questions. Why are you asking me that? From that, we don't even realize how dangerous just doing that alone, because they're exploring things.
Yes.
When we tell them stop asking, or I don't have time for it, now when they want to come to you and speak about what's going on in their minds and how they genuinely feel, they feel like they can't because you don't have time for it. Or when we've tried to ask, or when we tried to speak up, we've been told to be quiet, basically. And it's the same throughout their schooling years, you know, because they've been told from young to be silent. When they're in school, they don't know how to express themselves, so they become they misbehave. That's their way of expressing themselves, and because they acknowledge that through misbehaving, I get attention. People see me like that. They see me, whether they see me as a bad person or whatever, they see me, they're hearing me. But because they don't know how to speak on what's actually affecting them, they stay silent again. So it's just about giving them that space from young to really just be seen, be heard, be acknowledged as a human being. Stop criminalizing, stop looking at them as bad breeds or whatever from a young age, and see them as human beings, see them as people that can actually have feelings. Another thing that I used to hear when I was young is, you're too young to be stressed. You're too young to be depressed. What do you even know about any of that stuff? That is dangerous, because from birth, I always say, well, I don't always say, but recently I've been saying, from birth, we trapped in the womb of our mother's trauma. So we're already experiencing trauma before we even step out into the world. So we know what stress is, we know what depression is, we just don't know what it's called at that age. Just like a baby can cry, but a baby doesn't know how to tell you my nappy needs changing or I'm hungry. They cry for everything. It's down to you to be able to really tell. So it's about acknowledging them from young, seeing them as human beings, hearing them, and just treating them like how we would want to be treated. And I'm telling you, that can make a big difference.
You can get this book online. Just Google Yolanda Lear, The Journey to an Undefeated Mind. And as you can hear what the sister is saying, very clear, very articulate, very spot on. And I think to the older members of our community, we need to start to listen. We need to start giving young people and children space to express themselves. We need to stop silencing them, so that when they go into school, they're whole and rounded pupils. Is there any last message you'd like to give us before we end this interview?
If I can quickly just read out a couple poems. So the first one is quite short, the first one. This is from chapter 1 of the book. So as was mentioned earlier, the book takes you on a journey. So each chapter is basically each stage that you will go through before receiving the undefeated mind. So the first one is the dark room. I haven't actually named, I don't know why, I didn't name my poems. I just kind of threw it in the book. Excuse me. The first one, it said, I wonder, do they see the pain that lingers behind my eyes? Fear disguised as confidence. I call it isolation, but they say I'm shy. Feeling trapped outside, but free inside. Dark room because the light blinds my eyes. Music to help calm the mind, but I shortly turn it off because I just want to be alone. Just me and my thoughts, laying in bed with the cover over my head. Shut out from the world because that seems best. My belly is singing because I'm too weak to move. Lay there in hunger as my weight starts to reduce. Or it's takeaways, deliveries because it's so hard to move. No motivation to do anything. This pain is too real. Sorry. Bills climbing up. I just don't know what to do. But this dark room seems perfect to hide from what's real. So that's the first one. And I'm quickly going to read from the last chapter so you can kind of see the journey. So it's stuck in a dark room, a dark place. A place of comfort but confusion. I knew I had to break through this. Somehow, some way, there wasn't no stopping me. I was determined for change. So my mind I had to train. Building up my confidence once again. Positive affirmation speaking life into my mind. Learning my triggers, habits, and how they connect to my traumas. Preparing myself to take on the battles ahead. The first round is the hardest, but it prepares me for the rest. The challenges ahead has got me questioning what is next. Do I carry on or just give up here? The doubt that strangled my common sense is making it hard to see beyond the grey clouds that rain down on me. I got to snap out of it. I got to snap out of it. I want that title. You know, that undefeated mind? So I carry on. Enter the second round. The fight is harder, but I feel stronger. When it gets rough, I get tough. Quitting, I laugh at the thought. I've come too far, can't turn back now. The old me don't live here no more. I took it to the cemetery, buried it 6 foot deep. The new me is better, more stylish and confident. This newfound love and self-worth has got me thinking different. I'm opening doors I've never had the keys to before. Thank God for this renewed mind. Why didn't I apply this before? I still take losses, still feel down sometimes, but on the ground isn't my home. I'll be up before you know it. I might take losses, but defeats now, that's a no. No defeats around here. When your mind is undefeated, we learn our lessons, earn our blessings, and keep on stepping. And that's how you move when you have an undefeated mind. Letter. Thank you.
Let's clear that title.
Thank you.
Undefeated mind. Yolanda, keep going.
Thank you, sis.
Keep going. Thank you
I
so
will.
much. Thank you so much.
Thank
Here's
you.
the book. Get it now. Thank you.
I saw a few people ask where you can get it. So you can get it on Amazon. You can also get it on my website, which is theundefeatedmind.co.uk, and Google Play Books. It's not an audio book yet, but it's coming. So that's all I wanted to say.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, we've got Kelly.
Yeah, Kelly's coming up next. Okay, yeah. So that's really interesting. I was really impressed with Yolanda. The book is amazing. Yeah, she's an amazing young lady.
Well, I love the fact that she's combined her passion for youth leadership and her creative writing skills and just brought it together and created this fantastic book, which wasn't just about documenting and chronicling her own personal mental health journey, but actually created a blueprint that other people, particularly young people, can embrace and apply and start to work on their own healing journey. So fantastic. Again,
it's really amazing because that's what we need. We need a solution here.
We need some solutions and we need prevention. And clearly this is an example of prevention that Councillor Bramble was talking about earlier in the week. Fantastic. So now we've got Kelly Reid coming up, as I understand it, from Parent Voices. And again, we've got another creator, another innovator, app, Parents Voices app, I'm going to be handing over to my colleague Aladapo to start, and I'll join in.
Hi, Kelly Reid.
Hello.
Thanks for coming online today. So it will be interesting to know about the Parents app that you've created.
Okay, so I developed Parents Voice in 2015, and thanks to CCG and via HCVS, we were giving some funding to develop an app. So the app focuses mainly around risky behaviour. However, we have a section that focuses on cannabis and the links to psychosis, which we found was quite prevalent in Black communities where young people were smoking cannabis. And if there was an inherited mental illness by smoking the cannabis, this can then increase your chances of having a psychosis episode. As well as the app, we also deliver face-to-face sessions. Before I go on, I must say I have to mention Yolanda. And I do face-to-face sessions with the parents, and I would absolutely love to have you present to be able to share your story. I mean, you know, I work with an awful lot of young people who have experienced mental health or who are going through depression at a very young age and don't seem to understand it. And I think that you were able to speak your truth very, very clearly just in those few moments that you had. And I've already ordered your book. I ordered it while I was online. So anyway, so back to the sessions. So within the app, it allows you to go through, and when you click onto the app, you are able to click the cannabis and psychosis section. It will then give you a readout of what this means, and most importantly, how parents can spot the signs. Because I think this is really important. Very often, I mean, Yolanda mentioned it, you know, she said that, you know, when you come home and you're feeling a certain way, what very often happens in households is that you are shut down. You know, what do you know about depression? How can you be feeling anxiety? You're a child, you're not paying bills. However, the pressures in life now, especially in the 20th century, are very, very harsh on young people. And I think the idea of the app and having the sessions, the face-to-face sessions, is to empower parents to spot the signs on how to see mental health, but not only how to see it, but to help them understand how to deal with it. So, you know, very often I talk about the 5-minute rule. So the 5-minute rule is the 5 5-minute listening rule. If a child comes into your home and says that they, you know, slams a door and automatically the parent reacts by shouting, that will shut the child down, not allowing them to speak their truth and how they're feeling on that particular day. And even if 10 minutes later you go back for that conversation with your child will then close. I mean, Yolanda said it, you know, you shut off. You're not then open to that conversation. And I think it's really important to empower parents to have that knowledge and have that open space within the home to be able to talk about things like mental health. And I mean, mental health doesn't necessarily, you know, we do sessions around self-harm, eating disorders. It's not just those things that are quite visual that, you know, that mental health, that consists of mental health. It's the anxiety and the depression that young people go through silently, you know, and they're not able to openly speak about it. So I also, within the app, it speaks about risky behaviours such as gang affiliation, domestic abuse relationships and stuff like that, just so that parents have an understanding, all of which, you know, are very traumatic experiences that young people can go through and then can lead on to mental health. Having a good understanding about mental health as a whole is really, really important for parents, and especially within Black communities, because I think that, I mean, I know that when I was brought up, you know, we were seen and not heard. If you had a problem, you weren't able to really talk about it, you know, come out of the room, oh, the adults are speaking, come out. And even if they were speaking about topics that we needed to hear, you weren't allowed to be engaged in those conversations. And we need to understand that, you know, we're in the 20th century and times are changing, and our children are taking in an awful lot of information on social media. So whether or not we have those discussions, our children will be given the information around mental health and see violent videos and stuff like that. And it's important that we give context to what our children are watching, and that is by opening up the conversations around mental health. So that's what the app does. It's there within the app. It also gives links to Hackney organisations such as Young Minds and other organisations that can support young people that parents can click into. I find that with the face-to-face sessions, you get more out of the face-to-face session, I think, because sometimes parents will open up an app, they may not then go into a link to speak to somebody else. But if you're in a face-to-face session that has been organised, let's say by a school or a community group, and then you hear another person speaking about their experience, then that will open up the conversations for parents that don't want to discuss those experiences. And I think that that's really important. And I mean, I wrote a few notes about what Yolanda said, and she was really, really brilliant. It's very, very inspiring for me. And like I said, I do have a few young people that I'm working with currently that are struggling with their mental health. So I will definitely be promoting the book. I will be buying copies of the book for those young people I'm working with at the moment. And I will be promoting that book when I'm running my sessions 100%. So brilliant, Yolanda.
Yeah, that's really good. Yeah. So with the app, what has been the response with parents? You know, have you been able to measure how many people have been able to access the app?
So we have, so you can measure, it's like 300 plus people have accessed the app. What I find with the app is that more people will go into the app and then they will contact me in regards to having a face-to-face session. Because like I said, I think with the face-to-face sessions, you can get more an in-depth insight. The idea of the app is that you've taken all of the risky behaviours and you've put them into one platform, so that a parent then doesn't have to search the internet to find the information that they need. But the importance of the face-to-face sessions, I mean, it's evident with the feedback that we get from those sessions that, you know, parents are very thankful to have that open space. So as well as having the open space for young people to talk, it is important for parents to have that open space, because in a lot of communities, it can feel like shame on the family if your children aren't coping, you know, and that's something that we need to address, because there is no shame in mental health. You know, it's support, and Yolanda's living proof that you can be having an experience, and with support and 100% with writing the information down. You know, like she said, she was having dreams and stuff like that, and she was just putting all of this information on paper, and that supports your mental health. She's living proof of it.
I think it's interesting how you've been able to combine the digital solution with the face-to-face work, and how it's come together for you to, provide a kind of like a holistic service in terms of supporting parents so that they're better equipped to support their children. And I think, that's sort of the gap that Yolanda was, alluding to. And I think in terms of the work that you're doing through the PRIB on that project, that helps, that gives a solution, doesn't it?
Well, 100%, because like I said, if we are, so in schools, they do a lot of work around mental health now, which is brilliant. But what happens is very often the parent is taken away from that scenario and the focus is on the child. So when the focus is on the child, yes, the child is getting the knowledge and information that they need, but ultimately the parent needs to understand, because if the parent doesn't understand, they're unable to safeguard their own child. And the parent spends the most time with their child, and it's really, really important for parents to have very open dialogue. Whether or not it's uncomfortable, it's a conversation parents need to have.
An interesting aspect of this, to me, would be how has been the response of the African parents and the Caribbean parents to the services that you provide?
Actually, it's been really, really good. I get a lot of parents will come in initially, and they will be, we've been asked to come to a session. For example, if a parent comes to a face-to-face session, they'll say, oh, well, the school said that I had to come. And at the end of a session, their feedback is brilliant. They've come out with more information that they already had. And then, like I said, just with the 5-minute rule, the 5-minute rule is just something very, very simple. It's just having an open dialogue for 5 minutes, just to open up the conversation so that your child knows that you are there as support and not just as somebody who is directing where and what they should do in life. Because very often as parents, that's what we do. We want the best for our children. So if we shut out things like mental health. So if a child says that they're feeling depressed or anxious and we kind of just push it to the side, it may make the parent feel better in that moment, but actually for the child, they will then shut down themselves, and that can manifest the mental health. So it's about having those conversations. And when we do, like I said, the response from the African community is brilliant, and the Caribbean community. And speaking of, I'm a parent of my mum's Caribbean, so we weren't allowed to talk. We just didn't talk when we were growing up. You weren't allowed to have open dialogue about stuff like that, because like Yolanda said, how would we understand, how would you know as a child what depression was? Well, actually, young people do know, because they're open to so much information on social media.
And can I come back to the theme of building back trust? Mm-hmm. How would you say that relates in terms of your work, and how can we build back the trust in the community and, the borough as a whole in terms of mental health issues?
I think when it comes to trust, it's I think so. I work with a lot of young people who have social services in their life. This would be an example. What happens is an experience within social services. I do apologize if anybody from social services is watching, but the experience that I hear is that it can be very invasive. People don't want to talk about it. They then shut down from statutory organisations, and then there is no clear guidance for the family itself. So it's just, you need to do this and do that, rather than supporting the family. And I find when it comes to building trust in relationships, especially when you are involved in, let's say, a more community-based organisation, that is a little bit easier because you know the community personally. So a lot of the times, if you are engaging with the community, let's say on a day-to-day basis, or if you have good links with the school and the parents have got to know you, eventually they will open up and have very open and honest conversations. Sometimes there are conversations where you're like, oops, it's a bit much, but it's important that it's done, and I think that trust is key to any delivery that you are doing to anybody. And I think when it comes to the African and Caribbean community, unfortunately, we've got to a point, especially in light of what happened last year, in the Black Lives Matter movement, is that trust within statutory organisations and authority has really decreased. So it's so important that as community members and community advocates, that we tried to build that trust. If they say it takes a village to raise a child, and it's absolutely true.
Thank you very much.
Wow.
Thank you.
Wow.
It's really interesting to know that there are services out there. And the key point here is the fact that a lot of people do not trust the statutory services, and they do rather go to the community groups that they are familiar with. That's really interesting. Yeah, so there is, with COVID and the pandemic, how has it impacted on how you deliver your services, especially the face-to-face services you deliver to parents?
Okay, so obviously the online platform, so the app can still be used. That's the Parents Voice app on Android and on iOS. That can still be used, but again, it gives you the information that you need. But what's really important is to have those open conversations in the context. And I think with the pandemic, what happened is that we then moved to online. Now, being online, we make the assumption that it will be easier. I mean, don't get me wrong, I delivered sessions and my numbers went through the roof, you know, because everybody was kind of at home doing nothing. So, I mean, it was good in that sense. But on the other hand, it isn't, it took away that tangible kind of experience you have when you are in a face-to-face session, because obviously what happens on the computer, you talk in the chat bar or you wait till the end to have a Q&A session, and very often your questions aren't answered quick enough. So with some parents, they may have a question in mid-presentation and I'm asking them to wait till the end. And you know, when you're in a face-to-face, it's not like that. You know, if somebody asks a question, I'm led by the people that I am presenting to. Although I'm at the front of the room, I'm not leading the session as such. I'm allowing those questions to just flow when people need to have those conversations. But yeah, with the online, it's definitely been a bit of a struggle with the open conversation for sure. I mean, the message is still getting out there, but I think, yeah, let's bring back face-to-face.
I agree with you totally.
In a safe way.
Especially even the body language. You're not able to read the body language, which is really important when you're delivering a session.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, sorry, just one point that I wanted to make in regards to mental health as well. I think that as parents, what we discuss also is how we transfer our own anxieties and our own feelings onto our children, and how this also impacts on mental health. And it's really important that we are mindful of that. So for example, let's say if you're anxious about money, I'm a parent, I've done it myself, you know, and you're like, oh, you can't have that today, you know, but if we're constantly talking about how we are struggling, this impacts on our children, and our children will hold that burden and they won't speak about that burden. And in some cases, you know, you may get a young person that will be struggling with mental health and then go down avenues such as gangs that they don't want to do, or not even gangs, because, you know, the word gang is kind of overused sometimes. I think even just getting involved in criminal activity, you know, and a young person will do that because without knowing as a parent, what we do is we moan. Oh God, moan would be the word, I guess. That's what moan is the word. Correct, it doesn't matter how we speak as parents, you know, we are moaning. That's what we're doing. And if we're moaning about how much we're finding it hard about, you know, finances, or if we're going on about how important it is, you know, you need to be educated, you need to be educated. I do these things as well, but it's important that we give context to that and are very aware of what we say to our children, because your ear takes the information in, and depending on what your mindset is like will depend on how you dilute the information that you're given. And I think it's important to get those messages across to parents so that they can support their children.
Okay, can we just have the full name of the app? Because one of the audience members asked, what's the name of the app? Is it Parents Voices?
Parents Voice. It's just Parents Voice.
Okay.
Parents Voice.
Parents Voice. Yeah.
Parents Voice. Find it? Where do they find it?
It's on iOS. So if you go into iOS apps, or if you go into Android.
Right. Okay.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. So we're now going for a break, and when we come back, we'll have African drummers, Nelson and Melvin. So stay tuned. See you soon.
Okay.
The Reggae Star Factor family and Media welcomes you to the Blue Score. This is a live stream at Reggae Star Factor YouTube and Reggae Star Factor Facebook. The date, the 14th of May 2021. The time, 8 p.m. until 11 p.m. Featuring the legendary Little Roy. With songs like Bongo Maya.
Happy wedding wood. Yes, Jah. One people get the food.
Also songs like Reggae Soul.
People, I've got the reggae soul. People, you will want some more.
Also featuring the legendary 16 with songs like Love Is a Feeling.
I need a love I can be.
And Holding Back the Years.
Holding back the years. Holding back the tears I've had so long.
Also featuring the legendary Miss Joseph with songs like Rises.
In every day, trust in the Father, He'll guide you on your way. Guidance in every way. Teach my people not to go astray.
And also featuring the Queen of the Pack, the Barbara with songs like Children of the Most High.
Don't fear no man, nor fear no beast. We only wanna live in
And also featuring Dr. King with songs like Higher Meditation. This is definitely one not to be missed. Make it a date and don't delay.
Wow. Good evening, ladies and gents, brothers and sisters. My name is Nelson, and this is my brother Melvin.
That's me,
from
guys.
another mother. Hey, we're here representing Ire Mind, and it's about the
community and building trust with the community and finding out ways that we can engage the community and build back trust. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to play you guys and demonstrate the jumps. He's the veteran, so I'm going to follow his lead.
Wow.
And
it's about the appreciation for what Mind has done for us and the ability that God has given us to play jump.
Hope you guys enjoy that.
Thank you
Glad
very
to bring
much.
guys.
God bless
Positive
you.
Balance Vibrations.
Thanks to my mum.
Thanks to all of you guys.
Thanks to my mama. I love you, mum.
Love you too, mama.
Thank you.
Hello, welcome back. Now we'll be having a panel discussion, and we have interesting guests that will be discussing on Bring Back Trust, and it's going to be an interesting discussion. So on the panel today, we have Eche Egbonu, we have Great Okosu, we have Sean Buffonge, and we have Paul Gray. And I'm sure there's one other person
Helena
that
Charles.
should.
Helena Charles.
Yeah, and we have, oh yeah, is it Paul Gray? Yeah, who is?
Helena Charles.
Okay, and Eleanor Charles, yeah. So welcome, guys. And there should be a lady there. Okay, so we're waiting for the lady. That will be the last person on the panel. So hello, how are you?
Can I hear?
I think I'm meeting all of you now.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello. Hello, Grace. How are you, Grace?
Hello, everybody.
Hi, Helena.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now, Elena.
Okay.
Brilliant.
Yeah. Okay, doke.
Eche,
Yes.
yeah. Eche, you need to unmute, Eche, so that we can hear you.
Yes. Good evening.
Okay, good evening. How are you, Eche?
I'm doing very well, thank you.
Great. So,
Good evening.
good evening, Elena. Yeah. Now, the topic for the discussion is bring back trust and build back trust. I would say not bring back trust. I'm going back to bring back girls that they do in Nigeria. Yeah. So it's actually build back trust. So let's start with Great. What does that mean to you? Build back trust.
To be perfectly honest with you, it has a myriad of meanings to me. Bringing back trust in anything from the police to bringing back trust in, our own community. Because as a person who's non-binary and part of the LGBTQ community, I ain't got a lot of trust in the Black community. And people might say, "Oh, why don't you got a lot of trust?" Or why do you feel that way? If you have to ask that question, then you aren't really paying attention to what's been going on. And so building back trust is something that the Black community has to do for me, but that I have to build back trust for them. And yeah, that's how I see building back trust.
Okay. Yeah. Let's go to HA.
So is it the same question then?
Yeah, the same question. Or what's your view? What's your perspective about that?
So for me, there's two perspectives. There's the individual perspective based on me being sectioned, having interactions with the police, with the NHS as a service user, and the reconciliation that I had to do in terms of letting go of the anger and the resentment as I tried to kind of reintegrate back into society. So for me, this concept about building back trust, I feel it on a personal level, but then at the same time, there's a greater community discourse there's a greater community discourse that also needs to be had. There's a lot of themes, there's a lot of different opinions, some cultural aspects as well, which maybe haven't helped in terms of bringing this discussion forward. And so for me, the most fundamental aspect of this, I guess, is how people perceive the institution. And so I feel like there is a kind of a strong opinion and I guess apprehension of interacting and engaging with mental health institutions. And I feel like the concerns are valid, but at the same time, based on my own experiences, I've seen good, I've seen bad, and I've seen everything in between. So I really think it's about adding the nuance back into this conversation.
Thank you so very much. Yeah, and actually, I share, part of that sense of actually feeling really, worried about, trusting the system, and I feel that within my community. But I leave all this discussion to the panelists. So let's go to Elena. Yeah, what does build back trust mean to you? You're mute. You're mute. Okay, we can hear you now. Yeah. Oh, you're mute again.
Okay.
Yeah, we can hear
me.
Yes.
First, I must apologize because my Wi-Fi tends to be going up and down. Nonetheless, my trust would begin in my own self first. So I need to be doing like more listening. But the whole thing is, I regard, like, especially with this last year that we've had with the pandemic, I tend to have no trust in the powers that be, let's say, if I put it to you clearly. To me, I can listen to something or listen to some form of news, and I can be easily led. So I'm saying to myself, well, pay no heed to what's being said, lest I be placed into a hospital. I mean, I've had, personally, I've had a 40-year-old experience of having a mental challenge. My biggest fear is going into hospital, so I would do anything not to go there. I'm grateful for all the support that I receive in the Black community from Ire Mind and from core acts, etc. But there again, trust, as I said, trust is like throwing myself back and say, okay, yes, I'm faithful and happy for what we're being given. I don't see it. And having listened to Yolanda and what has been said, I've had that experience with children as well and with peer group support, etc. And it is true in my own life where it's that children are seen and not heard, and we always, so that sort of thing. So there's a lot to be integrated in our own lives, and it's how we are seen and is preconceived ideas, So to my mind, I might be saying something quite glibly, but nonetheless, through my experience, I've observed that our children, they don't have the same footing like other children. I don't know who would agree with me or disagree, but I just think that it's the way they're even spoken to, And I would say that someone said it earlier on, it isn't that they're not bright, for want of a better word, but it's the opportunity or it's the social standing, it's all the various setbacks that are there. So it's the overall amount of trust that I am not seeing, and I'm not willing to say, oh, everything is all fine and dandy. It's not.
Okay, thank you for that, Helen. I'd like to hear from Sean and the other two members of the panel before I come back and unpack some of the things that has just been shared with us.
Yes. Yes, so the question was, what do we... I can trust in who we are, trust that we're not... This is what it means to me personally. I can trust in who you are, not what they say you are. There's a lot of stigma, a lot of false narratives put on us as people, especially young people. And I think it's really about having trust that you're more than what they say you are. That's what it means to me.
Okay. Right.
I think it's emphasis on who you are and not what they feel that you are.
Okay, I'm just sorry, it's just because it's a bit of external noise. I'm struggling with that. I'm slightly hard of hearing. Sorry about that. Okay, thank you for that, Sean. Can I hear from Paul? Can I hear from Paul?
If you unmute yourself, please, Paul.
Hold on. What's happening with?
Are you able to unmute yourself, Paul? You having issues?
I don't know. Is it from here? Is it from here?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm all right now. Can you hear me?
Thank you. Great. Brilliant.
Yeah.
So back trust.
Building back trust. I think I have to ask myself, was the trust there in the first place? In 1998, there was some research written said Black people experience poor housing, high levels of unemployment, and low pay. That was 1998, and if you were to go back further, it'd probably be the same stuff being said. I don't necessarily deal with all that stuff, but I don't think you can build back from faulty foundation.
Okay.
So I don't think the trust was there in the first place.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I have to agree. I'm just gonna try and share something, an idea, and then I just want you to just respond in your own way. Like, I heard what Great said in terms of the Black community and the LGBT community and the lack of trust around that. And I just, in terms of when I think about trust, I'm thinking about these circles in terms of, I think it was Helena that mentioned about trust in herself, and then there's trust in terms of the family, and then there's trust in terms of our peer group, our family network, our friendship networks, and then there's trust in terms of the community, and then there's trust in terms of the state. And we all know examples, and if we didn't know, certainly COVID showed us what we thought about people that look like you and me, because we saw the disproportionate impact it had across the board, and the government was late in responding appropriately to those needs. So one question I'd like to ask is, in terms of the Black community and what Kate was saying about the LGBT community, how can we build trust within our community so that members that are from that community are supported, are seen, are listened to, and respected? Any ideas on that? Taking that from anyone from the panel.
If I could go first, I hope no open
Okay.
mind. I'm great, so I must speak. First of all, one of the ways to build back the trust is we need to feel protected, and it's also the fact that when it comes up, I don't want to, I can't go down to the basketball court and let someone know my real identity or let them even know my real pronouns without somebody calling me a baddie boy or making some mad homophobic jokes and then trying to play it off as a joke. And it happens from kids to adults. And I'm not someone that I'm a pacifist, but that really makes me angry. And it really makes it clear that I've got that a lot of the time, if I reveal myself to other Black people, my identity is such, people just go after me. And they don't even try to ask questions. Or if they do ask questions, it's highly offensive. And then they're like, oh no, I'm just trying to ask questions. They do all of those things. And then they try to, it's like they gaslight. And it's not only that, but it makes it hard for people to come out in general, because when a lot of LGBT youth come out, especially in the Black community, they're more likely to end up homeless.
Yes.
Sometimes dead, sometimes abused. It's the case of the fact is, we want to build back trust. For me to feel trust in the Black community, like, I'm someone I love the Black community. I love my people. You will see me I'm ride and die for us. But the trust I have in the Black community to protect me or to even back me, it's not, because there's a lack of understanding. There's willful ignorance. People will bring it back to religion, even though, let's be clear here, I know a lot of religions. I grew up under the church. I ain't know nothing in the Bible, and ain't read one thing about us, and it might be in there in the Old Testament, but it's also the fact that whenever it comes to the Black community and the LGBT community, it's always hypocritical when they talk about us.
Right. Okay.
Because they'll talk about us in the fact of, oh, you committed a sin, but auntie over there has been cheating with uncle from church. It's like it's always thrown back in our faces when we try to make sure that people understand. So for trust to be rebuilt, y'all would have to learn on your own, learn without us having to teach you, because at this point we're tired.
Right. So I would say then the LGBT community, in terms of Black members of that community, then need allies within the Black community to take on that role of advocating and doing the educational work. Because like you said about homelessness and deaths and so on, I spoke with a therapist who's running a local mental health project in Hackney, and she was talking about the numbers of LGBT young people coming to her, finding themselves homeless. And it was just in the middle of pandemic. I mean, what's wrong with people? I mean, why are you throwing your kid out of the home? All because of sexual orientation? I mean, get real, wake up. We're in the 21st century. And I see that as an extension of the silencing that Yolanda mentioned about be seen but not heard. And I think that broadens, it extends to the LGBT children and young people in our community, and we've got to really just grow up and get with the program.
Because I've got a sister who supports me and knows my identity and knows who I am, but we fully, like, she may not know how damaging it was to hear this at the time when I was younger, but she told me that I couldn't tell my mom or my dad because it would kill them.
Okay. Right.
I was completely silenced. I didn't have the chance to speak up in any capacity about who I am or my worth, and I hear consistent homophobia coming from my family. And that's the thing. I'm not even what people would consider the gayest of gays. I'm pretty heterosexual for most people. I'm not. I could be the queen, but unfortunately, I'm pretty much monarch in other ways. You know what I'm saying? And usually, it's really easy for people not to even notice that I'm LGBTQ. Like, I'm very masculine. You see me in person, you wouldn't even know that. I'm not even a dude. People don't even know that. I'm not a guy. I'm non-binary. But I have to keep myself silent so that people can feel comfortable. And if I don't keep myself silent, then usually I'm the one made to feel uncomfortable because people will push on their insecurities onto me. So yeah, I feel you completely. There's a silencing.
Yeah. And I think certainly in terms of the work that OMAR, Open Minds Alliance, we've been looking at, in terms of mental health issues, that we recognize that we can't just have one strategy, there's multiple strategies. And I think one of the earlier speakers, I think on Monday said, I think day one said about we need a two-prong approach. It might have been Lynette, I'm not sure. Charles, the CEO of Haringey Mind, talking about we need a two-prong approach. There's stuff that we do for self, but there's also stuff that we do in collaboration with others, with other agencies, with other organizations, with other statutory and mainstream voluntary sector organizations. And I think there are some organizations on the ground that do both. And I think just like we have an economic model that's based on mixed economy, I think certainly in terms of the African and Caribbean community, in terms of community development, looking at the issues of mental health, I think we need to do both. And we need to certainly bring in the diversity at the level within the community itself, but widen the circle in terms of our lens and the solutions we're looking at taking these issues forward. Thank you, great. So Eche, you were saying about, we can't, how can you build back something if it was never there?
In the first place, yeah.
In the first place. So how do we start? How do we start? And in fact, I'm just open it up to all the members of the panel, because we spent several months. When I say we, I'm talking about the Open Minds Alliance, OMAR. We produced a report, which we're in the process of getting published. And we looked at this whole litany of disparities, which Paul Gray mentioned. Yes, we documented all of that, all the review reports, it could, the review reports could stack all the way up to the ceiling. All these wonderful recommendations, any implementation, it didn't matter what government was in power, Labour or Tory, the results were zilch or very little. Yeah, let's give them a little bit, very little. And so there is a systemic pattern of racism and discrimination. And particularly when we look at mental health, when we look at policing, we see the disparities very clear. And for, I would say for our community, there is a particular concern in terms of the lack of protection and the lack of safety for our children, whether they're on the streets, whether they're in schools, whether in mental health system, whether in the care system. This issue of lack of protection, I think this is something I'd like us to talk a little bit about how can we improve and increase the protection of our children and young people, and that's all of them, because they're all our children, and how can we do it on a do for self basis, but also working with allies, working in partnership with other organizations to actually make a significant change, because the time for talking is over. We've done it, it's over. We need action, we need solutions. And clearly we had two younger people earlier. We had Yolanda. There was the blueprint. Yeah. There was the blueprint in terms of young people and mental health. And there was Kelly with another resource that can be support, equip, and enable parents to not silence their children. Let them express themselves. Let's have different kinds of conversations so we can move things along and deal with things on a preventative basis, which is what Councillor Bramble was talking about on Monday. She wants to see more preventative interventions, initiatives within our community, because that is where I would say there has been significant lack of investment. So I'm just going to open it up under the banner of, okay, so we want to build back trust. Some of us believe the trust wasn't there in the first place, particularly when we're talking about the state, we're talking about public government agency services. And at the same time, we have a need to protect and safeguard the well-being and the lives. Let me be honest, the lives.
The lives, yeah.
Because young people have been killed on the streets of Hackney.
Yeah.
Let's not pretty it up. What are your thoughts?
Is that me?
Anyone?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yes. So, yeah, building trust, safeguarding our young people, inclusivity. Let me just say a little bit about me. I'm born and raised in Hackney, born in my hospital, which is no longer there. So that's how long ago I was born there. I was born in and lived all around Hackney. You know, from Eastgate to Sandringham Road to Homerton, Nesbitt House to Stony, and I've lived everywhere. So Hackney means a lot to me. It means a lot to me. But because I've grown up there and I, know a lot of people there, it took me a long time to come back to the community and do some work in the community, because I knew there would be a lot of boundaries that would have potentially been crossed because people know me. So it's only in the later years, I'd probably say about 4 years ago, I was able to come back to Hackney. My work's been in health and social care. My career has been in health and social care for over 15 years now.
Wow.
So, so my first role in Hackney was GP share care lead, basically working at the GP surgeries, supporting GPs in weaning people off of methadone and buprenorphine and things like that. Even within that, with the adults, because it was adults then, obviously mental health comes up a lot, because when you're dealing with substance misuse, it's often hard to get, if people have got mental health issues, to get them mental health support while they're still using illicit drugs. It's, they don't want to really support until they're off of the illicit drugs. They don't mind them being on their medicated medication. So that was one of the hurdles that came up a lot with that. But I've now moved on. I'm back now working with young people. Career spans both. It's half and half, young people. So at the moment, I'm not working in Hackney. I'm working in Brent. I'm with gangs and transitional lead in Brent.
Okay.
So when you talk about safeguarding young people, I don't know if you guys I know this is about Hackney, and I am here to represent Hackney, talk about some other stuff. But Brent. When I work in Brent, I see so much of Hackney. I see Hackney without the gentrification, without the money that comes in. So as bad as things are in Hackney for our community, and they can do better. If you go to Brent, you'll see, there are, there's positives to being in Hackney. Let's just say that. Okay. But my thing is, one of the events that I brought to Hackney was the Premier Poetry Club, which I launched on November the 10th, 2018, on World Mental Health Day. And I specifically launched it on that day because I know there's a need for support around mental health and substance misuse. Sorry, mental health and substance misuse, to be fair, but it was really about the mental health side of things predominantly. So, every twice a week we do a podcast, one to be on mental health, one to be on the cultural things that are in society and things like that. But one of the things that I really learned through starting this event from scratch is how therapeutic spoken word and poetry and writing down your thoughts and feelings. And to the non-binary person that spoke earlier, I forgot his name was Great.
Great, yes.
Yeah. So he would have been more than welcome, and he is more than welcome. That was one of the beautiful things about an event like that. You had people that were transgender, you had people who were heterosexual, you had people from all walks of life that felt open and felt included and spoke their truth on stage. And with spoken word and poetry, you're not often doing it to music or to any live percussion. It's just you and the mic, and people are just listening to your words. And we've had some poets just like Great himself. People like that. It was just amazing. It was just amazing. And then when we had podcasts on sexuality and things like that, the input and the diversity that all of that brings up. And I think at the end of the day, when you talk about inclusivity, it's about what can you do? What are you doing as an individual? For me, that was something that I could do. I could create that event. I could create that space, and the people that were there, it was you wouldn't have had all of these people in the room in Hackney, as far as I could see, you know, and even people that may have had warped views about people's sexuality and people's way of life. It gave them a chance to hear people that come from that world, you know, and hear that these people are just like us. You know, we're all the same. We just got different needs, different wants, different likes, you know. And to be fair, you know, when I was a younger person, you know, say for instance with people that had drug addiction issues, I looked down on them. You know, when I was a teenager, you know, I didn't have any empathy for them. But through routes that I've taken in life, I ended up working with people with substance misuse and mental health issues, and it just let me know very early out that, hang on a minute, these people are just like me. They just chose differently. They just was born differently. They just, you know, this is how things turned out for them, good, bad, or indifferent. So there is no difference between us. I think there needs to be understanding. I think all of us just need a little bit more empathy, because when you hear somebody like Great talking about being, you know, feeling inclusive, if people don't understand that because they say, okay, I'm not LGBTQ, you know what it is to be black and in a room where people don't like you.
Exactly.
To be, you know what it is to be discriminated against. So you make a choice. It's either you want to be part of discrimination or you want to be somebody who addresses that and knows that out. So everybody just has to do their part, you know, think about what you're doing today and make a difference.
Thank you very much for that, Sean. Thank you very much.
Empathy.
Really so all hands must be on deck. Yeah, everybody must contribute their quota for the trust to be built back. And also reflecting on what Greta said, because when we say build back trust, we're actually often thinking of from outside to inside. But when there is trust issues within, that itself is a clear trust. So now the floor is open for the other contributors, please, to contribute to this.
So, okay, because we have an issue of time.
Yeah.
So, you know, make a contribution. Say your last words. That would be great. In terms of, was that Helena?
Last words.
Last word. In terms of this particular program.
It's actually why we do know that many of our older folks, let's say, they've got their whole concepts about homophobic ideas, and it's all there again going back into the back. And we, as far as we've got a faith, but there's so much misconceiving of the Bible. And so many people have got their own views, and it's always do as I say, but not as I do, and that tends to make people's minds, you know, on a different. And there's apart from the stigma of the mental health, it's the stigma of, because I mean, I must admit that, for instance, with these, even let's say with the census, when there's questions of what's your sexuality, it really gets me on my nerves, but as opposed to something that must be asked, you know. But there are so many things that, for me as a whole, as regards trust, like I've done a peer support group some years ago, and looking back, it's to do with the austerity, like, for instance, like Lee House that we had here in Hackney, that has been closed. So many things are closed, and people who are much younger than I am, they're unable to really even stay awake with the medicines they're having or having the right homes. So there's a lot of work to be done overall, and that's how I see it.
Thank you for that, Helena. You're right. There is a lot of work to be done. All hands on deck. Peter, have you got any? Would you like to say anything before we have to say our goodbyes reluctantly?
I would like to. Me?
Yeah, Paul.
Oh, sorry.
Paul, yeah.
Paul, okay. Well, I need to change my specs. Please forgive me, Paul.
That's all right. Yeah, I remember as a young, in my teenage years, and when I was growing up, we had a partner. For those who don't know what a partner is the community gathers their monies together and put it in a pot, and over a period of time you can withdraw your partner like a banking system. And I saw the power of the community doing that. I was able to buy my first vehicle for cash, for instance, from a showroom. The economic power of the community is unbelievable. And so for me, what I've started to do now is develop enterprises to tap into the needs. We have a lot of elderly folks, some got dementia, some got other needs, can't manage their homes and the like. And not relying on social services or funding or short-term streams, but looking to the future, what the next 100 years is going to look like, what the next 50 years is going to look like. What do we want to see, how people are going to be taken care of, but also live well-being in the next 50 years from now. To do that, you cannot rely on short-term government systems or chaos. You have to think about what works in the communities and build on that. And I think there's a lot of great things in the community which we have to refine, research, and develop further. But those enterprises, I believe that, just to say again, schools, developing our own schools, our own universities, I think these are paramount importance. My children, for instance, never went to state school. We homeschooled them, and then also they went to private education at sacrifice. But at the end of the day, we cannot make the same mistakes. So for me, if I'm looking at building back trust, I'm looking at what works for those folks who came over from the Caribbean, from the Commonwealth, what worked for them, building on those legacies and stop the short-term vision. I'm very passionate about the short-termism of the state, and for those who have the doom over the community. The community produces great things, and we have to highlight those things, build on those things for the next generations to be inspired. And that for me is how we build trust. As I said, there was banking systems in the 50s and the 60s. I'm a benefit of that. And we implementing those micro enterprises again to actually be able to have sustainable, what we want to look like. For me, the next 30 years from now, we'll have farmland, beautiful villas for our elderly folk to they'll be queuing up to retire and refire in those places. That for me is the kind of, we have to have a vision which we're passionate about and have the trust and belief that we can make it happen.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so very much.
Lovely. And I like the vision, the long-term vision you're talking about versus the short-termism. That is so empowering. And yes, I think the key in terms of economic sustainability, that's definitely one avenue we need to go down and start building up on.
So we want to thank all the panelists. Thank you so much. You've all contributed wonderfully. And now we will be favored with a song and video from Paul Gray, which is But I Fly.
So you leave me and my tears become my me. I was hanging around waiting for you. A cocoon becomes my womb after the struggle, but I fly after the struggle, but I rise after the struggle, but I fly You're climbing out of the depths of despair. You're climbing, you're climbing, you're climbing, you're rising, you're shining. Oh, how beautiful you are, as your wings glistering in the sky. You said how beautiful you are, beautiful you are. You're signing your name upon the skies, signing your name upon the sky. Said you're signing your name upon the sky as you fly on by. After your struggle, live again. But you fly after your struggle, live again. But you fly after your struggle, live again. Exercise your greatness, live again. Exercise your greatness, live again. But you
One Love Lottery is a new exciting weekly lottery established to help raise funds for our young people aged 17 to 25 and to generate community wealth in the UK. By playing One Love Lottery for just £1 per ticket, you also stand a chance of winning some amazing prizes, including our jackpot of £25,000 each week. Tickets are available from onelovelottery.co.uk or call 0208 183 1832 for more information. Draws are made every Saturday and you can play as many times as you like. Players must be 16 or over and reside in the UK. Please support One Love Lottery today. United we stand, divided we fall.
One love.
It's been an interesting evening today on the Omar show, which is Build Back Trust. I don't know why I'm always saying Building Back Trust, but actually we need to build back or building back trust here. So now we will be having Des Casby from the Men Chat 2, and he will be online for us to interview. Okay, Des is not online yet. For those that don't know about the Men Chat 2, it is a program organized by Father to Father, and it's been ongoing for a long time. And Father to Father has a Men Chat 2 to support African and Caribbean men, specifically Caribbean men, because at the end of the day, there are a lot of gaps. And you know that men don't talk that easily. And it's really been a good program for men to have a forum they can come to on the Monday, and where there is an open forum, no judgment. Nobody is being expected to do what they don't want to do. So this is the facilitator for Men Chat 2, and Father to Father CEO is Courtney Brown, and I'm sure for those that tune in on Tuesday, you'll have seen Courtney and online here, talking about what is happening within the Caribbean and space, especially around mental health for men. So we're now going to go to Danny and Jason, a video by two men that have been part of Men Chat 2. So the video will be played now, and I think Des is also coming online. Yeah. Well, let's listen to what the men from Men Chat 2 have to say first.
My name's Danny, and I've been a member of Men Chat 2 since late 2019. I was introduced to Men Chat 2 by Courtney Brown. And I'll be honest, Men Chat 2 has been a real saving grace for me. The guys in there are genuine. We vent our feelings and we speak the truth. No one holds back. I think that it's been really helpful, especially during the lockdown COVID period. a few of us have lost family members due to various different illnesses, as well as COVID. And Men Chat 2 has been a place where we could come and just vent how we feel. And I found that to be so useful, especially since it's really difficult, I find anyway, to speak to friends and family about how you're feeling. Venting to total strangers and learning and listening from their experience, I find I don't think I could find that anywhere else, to be honest with you. That kind of experience.
Hello, my name is Jason. I'm a Hackney resident and I've been introduced to Men Chat 2 about 6 months ago now. At first, I was very skeptical about opening up to a group of strangers, but I found the group very welcoming, very open. They have a Telegram chat, so there's constant messages being put out. Your opinions always being welcomed, feedback, interaction. You can have one-to-one sessions, so if you don't feel confident in a group, you can also talk on a one-to-one basis. I've found that taking feedback from people has made me look at myself differently. I've been able to put that into my real life and make changes. I've also believed that I've been able to contribute. So I think it's a real good service, especially at a time where everyone's being separated, no one knows what's happening from day to day. So this is one place where people can come and feel supported, feel valued, and feel that they're actually contributing to something of value and making a difference in other people's lives.
That is what Men Chat 2 offers, and online there would be information about how you can be part of Men Chat 2. And I think Des is coming online now. Hello, Des. How are you, Des?
Hey, good evening. Hi there, Marika. Hi there, Oladapo. Pleasure to make your acquaintance this evening.
Yeah, it's really good seeing you. Yeah, well, not face to face, but actually you've been at the other side of the screen. So this is an opportunity for you to talk about Men Chat 2. What has it been facilitating Men Chat 2? And just to let us know what is there on offer. I know what will men experience if they come on the platform of Men Chat 2.
Okay, well, first of all, I would like to begin by saying that Men Chat 2 is part of one of the products which Father to Father provides.
Yeah.
There are actually 3 products, one being called Teenage, Total Teenage Years, and another is called Boy Genius.
Okay.
And there is also Men Chat 2. I'm obviously here to talk about Men Chat 2, but these are 3 of the products which, when I got involved with Father to Father, from establishing a friendship with Courtney to going on a transition to actually becoming a very committed worker within the actual company of Father to Father, and it's been a wonderful experience. Now, concerning the Men Chat 2, which is what I'm here to actually give more information and insight into, Men Chat 2 basically is a seed-funded initiative by City and Hackney Clinical Commissioning Group, and they have commissioned Men Chat 2 for 12 weeks to provide a fortnightly space or in forum where men could come and they could therefore find a safe haven, a safe space where they could begin to engage in talking about real issues, the swept under the carpet type of concerns that men face, that often sometimes they may be apprehensive or reluctant to share, even with their closest family members, their partners, their grown-up children. And so it provides an opportunity for us to come together on a fortnightly basis. And what makes Men Chat 2 uniquely different is that there's many podcasts out there for men, and there's also men talk forums, but not all of them subsequently talks about real issues pertaining to areas that men sometimes feel more comfortable to avoid, like emotions, and like also dealing with the experiences of their childhood, or dealing with perhaps areas that even I myself continue constantly to contend with regarding esteem, especially having had my esteem in my earlier years discredited, challenged, or even put down by even authorities, referring back to even my schooling years. And so it's an opportunity to rebuild, to amend, and to also as well develop back these inequalities that will bring men back to a place of uniqueness and also as well to their more fuller potential. So it's more than just about talking, it's more than just about sharing, it's also as well about inner healing, and also as well about development and supporting each other. We have a culture, and that culture we're establishing, I am my brother's keeper. I look out for myself, my family, but I will also not leave a wounded soldier to die. I will help, aid, and assist him when he's going through things. And that's one of the unique things that I find about the community of the members of Men Chat 2.
Yeah, thank you so much. That's really interesting. I'm aware that Men Chat 2 actually is an acronym. So what does the acronym mean, and how has it grown? When did you start? How has it grown? How many men do you have? And we've heard from Jason, and it's really interesting what he said about how Men Chat 2 has been there for him in terms of he having a forum he can go to and having also like-minded men that he can speak to. So can you sort of shed more light about Men Chat 2, what the acronym means, and also the experiences of the men that have been part of it, since you started last year or the year before?
Okay, that was quite a full, comprehensive question. So I'm going to break that down and dismantle it and then begin to elaborate.
Okay.
So first of all, referring to the acronym, first of all, I will not take credit where credit is not due. I am the main facilitator of the Men Chat 2, but I actually did not come up with the idea, the concept, and also the inspiration behind Men Chat 2. That actually came from a very dear friend of mine, and also as well the initial overseer of this particular forum, named Courtney Brown. And he actually got that inspiration, I call it a download, into his spirit, and he came up with this term chat, and it is an acronym, and I'll just give you the components of that word. The word chat, starting with C, means that men have always been perceived to not express, to share emotions, and if they do, it's usually angrily or violently, or basically with their physical anatomy, their fists, rather than using the skillfulness of words. So we wanted to dispute that by saying that no, men also like to talk and share. They just need to feel comfortable, feel safe, and feel secure in the right kind of forum and environment, and bring out that, if it's shyness, or bring out therefore then that very concealed and secluded area of their willingness to come forward and convey the things that they face. Because a very long time ago, it was initially around World War II, it was stated that young men who was enlisted into the army, one of the things that was one of their actual metaphors was, men do not cry. Men must endure pain. And this is something that those men actually not only embraced, but they passed that very same philosophy down to their children. So even if a child was playing, maybe tripped over, grazed his knee, started bleeding, began to weep, the dad would say, "Come on now, cut that out." Because it was uncomfortable to see their child crying because they themselves had learned how to begin to withhold and also suppress their emotions.
Yeah.
So we therefore then believe that men should have a right to talk, to chat, to discuss, to explain, also as well to connect, and to also as well come together instead of being a one-man island, instead of being an individual. Men also as well, through the word H, have a right also as well to address those inner hurts and begin to go through a transition and also through a process of healing. So the H stands for men heal through a process of time and with the right support. Also as well, men acknowledge, because it's very hard therefore to address something that you're not aware of, or that you're in avoidance to, or you're in denial of. So we discuss the things then that can be uncomfortable, but at the same time, we're willing to be men and to face these things and to address them head on. And so also as well, men talk. Men therefore then talk, because talking is one of the best and free, and it's one of the most accessible types of therapy. And talking not only restores the person, but it can also help the listener. So that's what the word chat stands for.
Thank you so much, Des. That actually encapsulates what Men Chat 2 is. As we're running out of time, and we need to have to sort of gradually. So, is there any last word from you about Men Chat 2 that our audiences will be interested to know about? I know you, Des. Yeah. So it has to be short and sharp.
And I was just getting warmed up now in this discussion. What I would like to say that is Men Chat 2 is a forum which is provided for the Caribbean and the African men, and it's accessible and available for anyone who would go onto the Father to Father website. So I'm just going to give it a quick plug: www.father2father.co.uk, and that's where you can get information more about and register with Father to Father. And it doesn't only have to reside in the borough of Hackney as your residence or location, it is borough wide. And also you can learn more about the other two products which I mentioned, which was also Boy Genius, and also as well for those who are teenage years, sorry, and they therefore then can also as well get more information on those and also future coming events for Father to Father.
Thank you so much, Des. It's really interesting to know more about Father to Father, and definitely, I'm sure there's a lot of men out there that will be interested in contacting Father to Father and being part of Men Chat 2. So we'll now be going on a short break, and there will be a video from Cool Cafe.
Cool Down Cafe.
Cool Down Cafe, yeah, sorry about that. Yeah. So there's going to be a video coming in now from Cool Down Cafe.
My name is Yolanda Lear, and for Mental Health Awareness Week, I'm going to be reading a poem from chapter 3 of a book that I've released called A Journey to an Undefeated Mind. They see me smile, but not the scars beneath the skin. They hear my laugh, but cannot see the pain that lays within. Is it that well hidden, or are they just that oblivious? It's a question that constantly lingers at the back of my mind, like to say it lives there, though I do not remember no tenancy agreement. But for some reason I cannot seem to go through with this eviction. I cannot get these thoughts out of my mind. This pain feels like it's embedded in my bloodline. I asked my creator why me. He said, why not you? I was left with more confusion than answers, like, why am I chosen for this life? A life where I just feel broken. Now you're trying to tell me that I'm the token? But you must be joking. I'm far from it. Got this cover over my head. Isolated in a dark room. I'm not coming out of this cave. It understands me more than I do. You'll be foolish into thinking that I'm the one. I'm not Neo. I can't see no way out. It's like happiness took a drought. Is there an electric shortage? 'Cause that light is dimming down, forcing me to stay in that dark room for now, trapped in the moment of time. But I wish I wasn't trapped in this moment for time. Though this moment of darkness made me look deeper into my mind, made me realize that I am, in fact, that luminous light. It is down to me to change the room from darkness to bright. But I have to really want it, and have to be prepared to fight. It's all or nothing if you really want this undefeated mind.
Mental health is wealth. Remember, take care of self. I pray you don't feel alone, but know there's always someone that's truly there to help. I know life don't always bring the nicest lessons, but your life is precious. I felt like I was dying inside, like I was killing myself and my mind was the weapon. Like, did they even realize I'm stressing? That next person I open up to could be a blessing. Like, how I'm feeling, maybe somebody's been through this. Have a conversation, positive affirmations. Depression, don't give in to it. After the dark times, see the light. I can hear the trees talk while they whistle in the wind saying, come outside. Maybe the gentle wind blowing can ease your mind. A seed comes from such a dark place, but a plant or tree can rise to the sky. Mental health is wealth. Don't give up on self. I pray you see drugs won't help and you leave that drink on the shelf. There's people that dedicate life to helping people like yourself. And empathy allows us to try and feel how you have felt. I noticed COVID made it very difficult for certain people to cope with. Now the world is nearly going to be back open. I pray self-love and being around loved ones is your primary and main focus. Stay blessed. Peace.
We don't see mental health because we're blind to it. Clear visions, we have to put our mind to it. Someone might be smiling more time that they feel like they're dying or crying. Suicide, self-harming, mental health ain't a game. You might be laughing at someone, but they're going through the same pain. Bipolar antics, one day you're happy, then you're on some madness. You need to check yourself before you wreck yourself, cause this ain't no joke when you're talking about mental health. When I got stress and anger, I feel like I got it too. I'm good and blessed, I don't know about you. You might have certain problems you can't fix, cause you might have some enhanced skills that can put you in a mix. Is it mental health or mind games or tricks?
We've just had an interview from Men Chat 2, and now Marika would be interviewing me so that I can talk about African Men Safe Space.
Okay, so when did it get started and why did you get this African Men's Space group going?
Yeah, thank you, Marika. Last year, there was the discussion with Omar about creating an African men's space because unfortunately there is a lot of spaces, platforms for Caribbean men, but I've not found one. As an African man myself, I've not found any space that is there for African men. So we created it on the 26th of November, and the space has been growing organically. At the moment, we have over 14 African men that come on every Thursday, every fortnight to discuss about issues. It's a space that is not judgmental, is free, is an open space, and we discuss all topics. Nothing is actually there's no old bad discussion on every issue that could affect men. And we all know that with men, men are really, they don't talk about issues, and they find it really challenging to also, go to any platform or any space where there are other men, because every man feels that, I can handle my own issues. But with the African men space, we have men actually talking about, things that normally and ordinarily they will not talk about. We've had men talking about their coping strategy. How do they cope when they're stressed? We've had men talking, telling us that I watch football for me to distress. We've had men that say, when I'm stressed, what I do is just go around the house and start cleaning. So we've had interesting discussions on so many different topics, and it's been growing.
And why do you think these men have been open to talk with a group of men they don't know, strangers, about really personal issues to do with their lives?
Yeah, I think what I've observed as a facilitator is the fact that because there is no other forum, there's no other space, and there's a lot of expectation, because the last discussion we had 4 weeks ago was about the expectation from men as a father, as a brother, as a cousin, as an uncle, and also as a spouse, as a husband. There's so much expectation, and especially from the African perspective, where a lot of cultural and religious expectation makes it the man the center point, where you are supposed to be the breadwinner, you are supposed to be the solution provider, you are supposed to be the protector, and so they are not expected as a man to break down or to seek for help. So your role is to be the strong, the knight in shining armor to solve all the problems. But at the end of the day, men also needs to be supported. And their support is not available in the mainstream statutory agencies because, unfortunately, most of the services available are not culturally appropriate. And what we provide at the African Men's Safe Space is that culturally appropriate support for men, where men feel comfortable in the midst of other men of African descent, and they know that they will not be judged. Whatever they say is confidential, because when we do the sessions, it's online on Zoom, it's not recorded. So nothing is recorded. So they know that whatever they discuss, is a safe space, and no one is judging them, and there's none of their personal information or issues is being passed on to any agencies. And that is the key in terms of the success of the African men's space. The fact that is a forum that they can come to and they can talk, and nothing will be disclosed about what they say.
So clearly, in terms of the way the group has been set up, in terms of the format, it's designed to build the trust of the men so that they will feel free, sufficiently free enough and confident enough that they can be themselves in this space. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, because the space allows them to, so what actually the space provides is a peer-to-peer support. So rather than having a specialist or a therapist actually talking down to people, it's more about, we as men being able to support each other, being able to provide answers or solutions to a problem anybody brings onto the platform. So there is no sort of specialist, because at the end of the day, nobody has a monopoly of wisdom. So what we do is actually to find answers to questions within the group. So that way we have this, I would say, an ecosystem where we depend on each other. So it's not a parasitic relationship. It's more about a symbiotic relationship where we depend on each other, and we know that that when you come to the forum on a fortnightly basis, any issue you bring to the forum, there will be one or two people that will have shared, a lived experience of what you come in to share, and they will be able to give you advice or share their own experience, and then you'll be able to find at least answers, if not the total complete answer, but at least you'll be able to get some sort of information that will help support you with when you are having they'll support you to be able to resolve that issue, even if it's partially.
I think it's interesting what you're saying in terms of that peer-to-peer support and that group support that comes out of it, because it reminds me back in my very young days when there used to be what was called the African Liberation Movement, and they used to talk, one of the slogans was, "I am we, Yeah, I am we. And clearly, in terms of how you're running that group, how that group is being facilitated, is very much the collective.
Yes.
And at the same time, everyone can take what, they contribute. At the same time, they can share that which is going to enable them to move forward in terms of their own particular situation. Because, there is a concern, obviously, in terms of Black men and mental health issues and coming into the service at the acute stage, at the later stages, and not enough work done in the community in terms of early intervention and prevention. And clearly, Men Chat 2 and African Men's Space represent a couple of two examples, two clear examples of how prevention can be put in place so that men don't tip over, that pressure cooker doesn't build up. So, that's going to lead to negative.
Exactly.
So we're taking the pressure.
We're taking the pressure out because at the end of the day, especially with African men, there is a lot of factors that even leads to the pressure. Because where are we coming from? A lot of African men in the UK are migrants. You're coming from a community, a society where there's issues around witchcraft, around the culture, around religion, around social issues, even the stigma. Some of these men actually also came in as refugees. So there is a lot of issues that they're coming into the UK with. And oftentimes the statutory agencies do not have that understanding. And I will use the word cultural intelligence to have an understanding of how to deal with men that are coming from Africa. And that is what we provide. We have that understanding because we are also African men. We have the lived experiences. We've come from the motherland, from Africa into the UK. So we have the experience from both sides of the Atlantic. And that we're able to use that knowledge and that lived experience to support our men on African men's space.
Well, I like the term that you've used. I've never heard it before, described as cultural intelligence. I love it. And I want to thank you for that work, for the work you're doing in the community with those men. And we have to now end this conversation.
Yes, and there will be a video that will be played soon from Dennis. Dennis is one of the men that is on the African Men Safe Space.
Greetings, men. At your behest, I've put together just some points as a summation of what the African Men's Meeting Space means to me. I've jotted down a few points which I will read now. The African Men's Group is a place that relationally you're connected with men, which provides a sense of identity. The African Men's Group is an environment that one can feel safe, where one can be transparent and unashamed. The African Men's Space is edifying engagements where we are enriched by the sharing of others' personal experiences. The African Men's Space is a platform to escape the mundane realities of life by engaging in rich dialogue. The African Men's Space provides a realization in the difference of people, and in those differences they are celebrated. The African Men's Space is a place where we are considered, so much so that the facilitators sacrificially give of their time, energy and resources, for which we are grateful for. And I just want to say thank you all for contributing to that, because it was through you all that I was able to come to that summation. I look forward to seeing you guys, love and appreciate you. Unfortunately, I won't be on the call this evening, but no doubt it will be a good call, and I ask in the future, if possible, if we can start recording our sessions. But anyway, That's me, Oladapo. Sorry for going over the time. God bless. Bye.
Contribution. I'd like to now introduce you to, again, another member of the community. Oh, why can't we see her? Oh, right. Okay, you're in now. Okay. Yeah. Another multi-talented, multi-gifted member of the community. Okay. Here we have, this is Jojo. She's a gifted, creative poet. She's a peer mentor. She's a group leader. And this is what excites me the most. She's a keep fit guru. So, you have the floor, Jojo.
Okay, so I've got a poem here that I'd like to read. And how it came about was I actually work as a lollipop lady. And I cycle to work every day just to be healthy. Mm-hmm. But this poem is about something that happened to me last week. I'll just go ahead and read it anyway. Its title is My Bike, Your Plight. You came up behind me in stealth mode. You were up to something, it glaringly showed. You blatantly proceeded to take my bike. Somewhere inside your head, you could do whatever you liked. I stood up beside you and questioned your motive. You looked at me stunned. Your expression showed this. You never expected an old chick like me to be the owner of the bike. It was so plain to see. The look on your face when I told you to stop. You bit off more than you bargained for. It was such a cheap shot. You and your buddies walked slowly away, as I was obviously reeling from being played that day. You stood quite a distance away and conversed in your group. And before I knew it, you all decided to loop. You walked back towards me and were highly apologetic. You referred to me as auntie, and yes, I get it. I spoke to you with love and compassion. I told you that you shouldn't conduct yourself in that fashion. Your head was bowed and you nodded and agreed. The public referred to you kids as bad breed. In order to change people's opinions of you, you need to be honest in whatever you do. Eventually, you'll be seen in a positive light. It's never too late to fight the good fight. Go educate yourself and be on top. Who knows, one day you could own a bike shop. What did I gain from the young man that day? Because we all know conversation travels both ways. I immediately went and purchased a lock. So never again will I experience that shock. And that's it.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, Jojo. Thank you for your contribution. Okay. All right. I'd now like to invite Vivamun to come on to say the closing, make the closing remarks.
Hello.
Hello.
All right, I've got 4 minutes. All right, let me run through it very quickly. Firstly, I want to congratulate you on delivering a very reflective, deep, powerful 3 hours, or should I say 2.5 hours. And, you know, some of the bits that really struck me with the great, but great is great by name and great by nature. So I wouldn't have expected anything less. And I think the other bit that didn't come out is the fact that he's also the ambassador for Omar at 21 years of age. It's just a powerhouse of an individual. You opened powerfully with Yolanda. And in fact, I've just been WhatsApping her backwards and forwards on off. She thanked me for my comments, but she's truly an inspirational young woman. And that's what gives me such hope on the back of a pandemic. And when we see
horrendous crimes like George Floyd and so many others in the UK as well as elsewhere. That we've got these green shoots coming up who are resilient visionaries, futurists coming forwards. I want to thank Nicola in particular because she, led the project management aspects of this particular stage in the journey, which is a seven-day journey over this mental health week. She did an amazing job in regards to that. She was also, on the promotional material, we've got her in as the chief executive. She said, Viv, I'm actually the manager of Ire Mind and in Hackney, not the CEO, but I quite like the title. And I thought, yeah, because that's who you are. You are the person that's driving it, and you will step in and do what needs to be done if others are not able to or willing to step into the breach. And she's done an amazing job of bringing this particular ship into the harbour on a Thursday night for Hackney community. And let me just deal with Hackney specifically. A year ago, there were no African Caribbean heritage-led organisations in Hackney. And now we had one burgeoning service in Ire Mind, and now we have two. We have Ire Mind, and we also have Swim. And I'm really inspired by Swim and its CEO, Peter Merrifield, because this is an organization that's taken things back to the grassroots. And what I mean by that is it's taken the service to where the community is. Building back trust means, recognizing that the community has to be won back. We have to go, we have to sell, we have to plead, we have to pitch to get the community to re-engage with services. And Swim and Peter Merrifield, as its leader, has been willing to do that. And we're speaking to Dan on Monday, the Commissioner for Hackney. He made a very important point online about how amazing Ire has been in regards to putting the juice back into therapy, the culture, the vibe, the rhythm back into culture, back into therapy. And as a result, they've seen amazing results in terms of recovery rates amongst African heritage communities. I want to see that going forwards. And, everybody knows in Hackney that my preference would be for Ire to be an independent service. And I say that without fear or favor and unapologetically. And my trust is that it will work to that. We need our services, our flagship services, to be independent. This whole week has been about cross-borough celebration, reflection, and real talk, as Great brought, within our community. We, as elders and leaders in our community, have to break the postcode if that's what we want to see amongst our young people. Last point, as I go 1 minute over 10 o'clock. This is just the beginning, this 7-week process. We're putting in the foundations that we will build on year on year on year on year. And we have to fail ourselves into success. Those of us who operate in the corporate sector understand this. In the private sector, you don't start something and win straight away. You have to fail and fail and fail and fail into success. And that's what's been happening this week. Day after day, we're building the numbers, we're building the competence, we're working with each other, letting each other down, forgiving, and then delivering. And that's what I saw tonight. I'm just humbled by it. We're humbled by it all. And I'm thankful to have been here and had the opportunity to say the closing words around it. And I'm humbled to have, because I was born in Hackney like Sean. And so I'm humbled to have been able to have been in service to Hackney over this last year in lockdown with the pandemic, and see such power coming out of the pandemic with such powerful dynamic services. And on top of that, Omar, this strategic network that aims to ensure, in partnership with other networks like CAHN, Caribbean African Heritage Health Network in Manchester, and Black Thrive Global, headed by Jackie Dyer, working in partnership with them to ensure that our voice is heard, is amplified, and ensuring that nothing gets done for us, without us. To conclude, today's Thursday. Tomorrow we're going to hear from Brixton community, strong, vibrant. Saturday we're going to listen to the men reflecting, both young and old, intergenerationally, and we're going to do some of that non-binary narrative storytelling that Gray touched on, because it's really important. And then we're going to end on Sunday with Black women in leadership and also transitioning into leadership. It's been a powerful week so far. I'm looking for more food, more spiritual food in the remaining 3 days. So thank you once again to Nicola for being that project management lead. Thank you to Oladapo. Oh my, what a beautiful brother. He doesn't talk, he just gets it done. And Marika, oh my God, who's embraced the technology even though it's not something she's been comfortable with. And many of us as elders need to do that because it is the future. So that's enough from me. 3 minutes over. I'm going to stop there. Thank you. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to say a few words. Vivamun, strategist, futurist. And there you go.